Welcome to the SFA Synonym Sort for K through 5th grade. You know, writers don't just choose the first word that comes to mind. Instead, they do some work with looking at synonyms and deciding which one really fits the writing, which one really describes the topic that they are writing about. And so in this SFA, we're going to take a look at several very common words that we see in students' writing, and we're going to work on replacing them first by looking at synonyms, and then by sorting them into synonyms that actually fit the topic, fit the context that we're writing about, and then synonyms that, while they mean something similar, they don't fit for what we're specifically writing about. This is a skill that will serve you so well as a writer because we want to make sure you develop the skills to choose the exact right word in your writing. So let's get started. On day one, we're going to first explore the meaning of a synonym. What does that word even mean, and how do we know when we found good synonyms for the words that we want to replace? And then we're also going to walk through the steps with one of the words. We have an example word, and we'll walk through all of the steps that we want your brain to learn to do to evaluate the synonyms that you'll come across. And then for days 2 through 5, we're just going to repeat that process for new words each day. And by the end of the week, you're going to have a really good sense of how thesauruses work, how we can't just go and find any random word that's a synonym to replace the word that we want to in our writing. We really have to think about what the topic is that we're writing about and which words or words specifically fits that topic and really helps describe it. Because just one word, one change of a word with a new synonym can change what image our readers have in their minds. That's how powerful this work is. So let's get started. We have a link here for our student worksheets and also for an answer key, but I do want to point out that the work with synonyms is all about discussion. It's all about discovery. And so if you all decide on a different organization of the synonyms, as long as you can back it up with really strong reasons and it makes sense to you, that is okay. We actually have that as a note back on this slide here, that if you do sort the synonyms differently, but it makes sense because of the explanation and how you're thinking about the wording, then that's okay. We're going with the most general organization here in this SFA, but sometimes there are differing opinions that are actually just as accurate. Okay, so let's begin by first defining what is a synonym. So I want you to take a minute and have a discussion about what does that word mean? When you hear the word synonym, what does that mean to you? What is a definition you would tell someone for that word? A lot of times we get a definition, and maybe you said something like this: they are words that mean the same or about the same. And actually, I'm here to tell you that is not true. No, synonyms are not words that mean the same thing or about the same, because if they meant the same thing or they were so similar, then we wouldn't need all these different words. So it's really important that we understand how synonyms are different. And so that's a key word I really want us to come to understand about synonyms. They are words that can mean almost the same thing, and they are words that are connected, right? That's really important. They are words that can be stronger or weaker depending on the topic that we are writing about. And then that's the last one. They really do have to be chosen based on the topic that you're writing about. So this SFA is going to give you that great practice of thinking about what is it that I'm writing about and what synonyms best fit that topic, best fit that context. Okay, so let's take a look at a sentence here. We've got a little ladybug landed on my hand. And our first step is to read the sentence and then think about what that bolded word tells the reader. So a little ladybug landed on my hand. What is the word little telling the reader? Well, it's about size, right? And then it's really telling how tiny, right? That it's not a very big ladybug. And plus the picture really helps us see how teeny tiny the ladybug is. So first, we want to have a discussion about that bolded word to make sure that we understand what it means. Then step 2 is going to be sorting the synonyms. So we will provide 5 synonyms for each of the keywords, the bolded word that we're looking for each day. And then we want to sort it in the classifying design. You can see we've taken the word little and we've got 2 branches. One that says fits the topic and the other that says does not fit the topic. And our job is to sort these words, the 5 words that you see on the left. You've got teeny tiny, miniature, microscopic, itty bitty, and minikin. Now, minikin is not a word maybe that many adults know. And so that's why I love bringing this word. It is a word that, spoiler alert, perfectly describes a ladybug. It means tiny and dainty and fragile. So all of the things that certainly apply to a little ladybug. So these 5 words are all synonyms. They all would be found if you went to a thesaurus, and you are welcome to go to thesaurus.com, look them up here, or pull out an old-fashioned paper thesaurus, which I still love to use, but you'll just find a list of words and maybe some other ones besides these 5. And so what our task now is not to just randomly choose a word, right? We can't close our eyes and just choose one, because some of them work and some of them don't. And that's what we have to get into now with our work here. So I'm going to just shift out of one setup to another one to just make sure that I can move things around on the screen here. So teeny tiny, as we think about that in terms of little, we're talking about that the ladybug is just this itty bitty, teeny tiny, right, little ladybug. So this one does fit. It's telling us the size, but teeny tiny is not too small that we would need like a magnifying glass to see it or a microscope, right? So that word really does fit the topic. All right, now let's take a look at miniature. So when we think about miniature, we also have to have something that would be regular size, right? So when I think about like doll houses or Barbies or any toy that's a miniature set, right? Like Hot Wheels, those are all miniature of big things. So miniature implies that there is a bigger version, a much bigger version of it. And when we think about ladybugs, there aren't giant ladybugs, right? They're not ladybugs as big as a 3rd grader, right? So miniature, while it does mean little, it does not fit the context. Okay? Microscopic. Well, we don't need a microscope, right, to see a ladybug. And that's really what this word is implying, that it's so teeny tiny that you can't even see it with your eyes. And we can all see that ladybug, right, on the picture. So microscopic is another word that does not fit the topic. All right, you might have heard me slip earlier and say itty bitty. And yes, this one fits. In this case, an itty bitty ladybug landed on my hand. That fits. So we want to put itty bitty under fits the topic. And then lastly, my new favorite word, minikin. A minikin ladybug landed on my hand. Yes, that one fits as well. So these 3 are the fits the topic words: teeny tiny, itty bitty, and minikin. And then miniature and microscopic do not fit. Okay, so again, all 5 of these are synonyms for little. And this is the tricky part of synonym work. We can't just choose one synonym and say it's good to go. We have to make sure it fits the topic. It fits what the sentence is about. All right. Let's take a look now at our next slide, where you can see we've got all 3 words listed under here. We've crossed out little because that's what we want to do, especially in writing with design. When we are working on revising words, we just want to put a simple line through and then give the better or new word that we're going to be putting into our writing. In this case, we still have a choice of the 3: teeny tiny, itty bitty, and minikin. And so now we want to try out each of the synonyms that fits the topic and decide which one fits the best, or the one that we like the best. So you can see over on the left, I've just written it out for us to practice reading. So this is an opportunity for you all to pause the video and take a moment and practice those 3 sentences on the left. I will continue right now with reading them, but I would encourage you to pause and practice yourself saying these words, thinking about a ladybug. It really is going to help you remember that these 3 words are powerful to talk about little things like a ladybug. So here we go. A teeny tiny ladybug landed on my hand. An itty bitty ladybug landed on my hand. A minikin ladybug landed on my hand. Okay, so we're just practicing reading all 3 of them. And then on day 4, we want to talk about which one we liked best, right? That all 3 are correct at this point. We've gotten rid of the 2 that are not correct. So we have 3 great choices. And now this is where it's fun as a writer to think, oh, I have never put mannequin in writing. And that is the truth for myself. That's a word that I'm so excited to use in my writing in the future. And so that's one that I would love to try out right now. A mannequin ladybug landed on my hand. Maybe you like teeny tiny. Maybe you like itty bitty. You can choose any one of those 3. All 3 are correct. So this is where, as a writer, you get great choice of what you choose. And then notice we have a second sentence. It looked like, and then we just brainstormed 3 ideas to really help add detail into that second sentence to help show the meaning of our synonym. So, a mannequin ladybug landed on my hand. It looked like a red sprinkle. It looked like a red dot of paint. It looked like a necklace bead. Right? All 3 of those give us great, rich, additional detail to better understand what that adjective, in this case, that word that means little, means about the ladybug. So you have 2 choices on step 4. You get to choose which synonym you want to use, and then you get to choose which of the 3 options for that second sentence, which of the 3 details you want to pull into your sentence. And if you have another idea of something else besides a sprinkle or a dot of paint or a necklace bead that references the size of the ladybug, great. You can change that out in that final sentence. We just want to make sure that that sentence starts with "it looked like," and you're telling something that really indicates how tiny, how little, how mannequin, how teeny tiny, how itty bitty that ladybug is. All right. And then here we are with day 2. We are going to repeat that process and go through, in this case, the word pretty. So notice again, you've got 5 synonyms here. And teachers, what I want you to notice is that after this slide, they will be sorted. So you do want to make sure that you are giving students time on step 2 to move the words around before you go to the slide. So this is really serving like an answer key. And again, this is really meant to help cultivate discussion and think about which words fit and don't fit, letting them try out the different words. So we want to make sure they get practice saying all of this rich language as much as they get a chance to sort them. So just make sure on step 2 for each of the words, you are taking time to actually move them into the boxes and discuss the words before you reveal the answers on step 3. And this slide does have a lot. It should be a check with the classifying design to make sure that pretty is sorted correctly. The synonyms for pretty are sorted correctly. And then you see the 3 underneath the crossed out word of pretty in the sentence, just to spur, that's where the word goes and what would it sound like to say those. And then as a scaffold for that, we have on the left side the sentence with the new synonym in each of it repeated. So just to try these out to make sure these all make sense, the lovely flower bloomed, the striking flower bloomed, the exquisite flower bloomed, all sound great. Glamorous, yes, it does mean pretty, but that would be something more fancy, like someone in a really nice dress, a sequined dress, right? And adorable, that's more like something that's cute and young, like a puppy, right? So neither one of those, even though they mean pretty, it doesn't fit the context of what we're saying here. And then notice we've got 3 great additions for that second sentence. The striking flower bloom, it looked like a purple pom-pom. It looked like a lavender firework exploding, right? You can add more in. We just want students to start with that base sentence, change out that synonym, and then add in this case, we're making similes with each of the second sentences to give more description about what the synonym is indicating about the topic. And that's really the repeat. We took a lot of words that are overused in students' writing. So we saw little, for our example. We just did pretty. Here's big, about a big wave crash toward the shore. Notice with the words towering, bulky, mammoth, vast, colossal, all of these are going to be some stretch words for students. We really wanted to make sure we weren't just teaching synonyms that also become overused, like huge and giant. So we've got towering because it really is a very tall wave. That fits. Bulky, no, that does fit in some situations. Maybe if we're talking about a hippo trying to get through a doorway, right? It would be a bulky hippo, but no, that doesn't, or a bulky jacket, right? A big jacket. So we want to put that in the does not fit. Mammoth, another great word to kind of just continually build your students' vocabularies, all connected to a word they know very well of big. Vast also will not fit. That has to do more with wide open spaces. That's not really applying to a wave, more like an open field. And then lastly, colossal. That definitely fits on our wave description. So you've got it outlined here with the 3 that do fit, the 2 that do not. And again, the setup on step 3, this slide is really important to get students comfortable with trying out all 3 of these words. They can read to each other. They can do choral readings. You can have them play around with different voices, but just get students comfortable practicing these 3 synonyms for big when it pertains to a wave. And then you've got 3 great synonyms here to choose from: a roaring blue monster, a rolling mountain of water, a roller coaster made of water. All fantastic ways of getting students to add that second detailed sentence to make towering, mammoth, or colossal more understandable for the reader. Day 4 is yummy. So we have got this system down by now. Look at your great synonyms here. Again, really fantastic words for students to learn, some that are a little bit more common, but we also want to stretch students and learn words that are really powerful in writing that are going to make readers say, wow, a 3rd grader put that in their writing. A 5th grader did that. I didn't know 5th graders knew the word toothsome, right? So these are wonderful words that, yeah, we're going to need to look up the meaning. What does it mean to be a savory cookie? Well, that actually means it's got more like a hearty flavor, like a soup or a meat dish. So savory really doesn't fit this topic, right? Maybe sugary would fit, but not savory. Flavorful, same kind of thing. There's not a ton of different flavors going on in a cookie. It's delicious, but it's not flavorful in the sense of like a casserole, right? That's got a lot of different tastes that kind of come together. Then the bottom 3, mouth-watering, delectable, and toothsome, are all the ones that we want students to sort in. So this one's got 2 at the start that do not fit and 3 that do fit, all on a very delicious topic to write about. And then your not synonyms, the similes are here: a chocolate cloud, a warm bite of happiness, a melting chocolate smile. And in this case, we did it tasted like instead of it looked like, since we're bringing in taste here. Okay, and now for day 5, we have the word awesome, the awesome roller coaster zoomed on the track. So you see your 5 synonyms here: thrilling, wonderful, exhilarating, fantastic, electrifying. Again, all of these mean awesome, but this is a word that I think every teacher will agree students overuse in their writing. So we want to give them a chance to think specifically about something like a roller coaster. What could we use? Yes, it is wonderful, but so is a pizza party, right? So we don't want the same kind of words being used to describe a roller coaster and a pizza party. So we want students to really think when something's exciting like a roller coaster, what kind of words can we pull in? So thrilling would work. Exhilarating would be another one. And then electrifying are 3 that really fit a roller coaster, that are fresh and new for a lot of students to pull into their writing. So that means wonderful and fantastic, although they are great words, will not be the ones that will fit this topic. Then you've got the 3 sentences to practice with over on the left. Again, get students practicing these words, getting comfortable with saying the sentence with these new rich synonyms in them. And then you've got, in this case, it sounded like. So days 4 and 5 are tasted and sounded rather than what it looked like. So we've got a little bit of variety in our follow-up sentences. So there you have it with synonym sort for our elementary students. What we really want students to do here is just start to think more critically about the synonyms that they're pulling into their writing, and not just think that all synonyms are created equal, but then also know how to best go about deciding which ones fit. It might mean pulling out a dictionary to get a better definition of the synonyms. It might just be through discussion, but those two things are a great gateway in for students to really develop a better sense of the word choices that they have and getting better at deciding which ones are going to fit their writing. All right. Happy writing, everyone.